Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Abigail if you're new, and I make videos about special needs and health issues. I'm also on a feeding tube, so I also make videos about that. Today I want to talk about some of the positive sides of having health issues and some of the things that it's taught me. A lot of times when you think of a certain diagnosis, it's usually what some people might consider sad. There's a lot of diagnoses that has to do with health that's not it's not easy. And I was trying to think of some of the things that having health issues have taught me, but on the more positive side of the situation, because as hard as it gets at times, I try to think about the positive. I think that one positive side of having health issues is that it makes you stronger. I mean, like, in my case, being on a constant feed on my feeding tube, I'm like always wearing my backpack unless I'm like changing clothes or taking a shower or something like that. But it is a continuous feed, so unless I'm in a position where I can't wear my pump at the moment, like changing clothes, other than a short period of time like that, I'm always on it. I think that one thing that my health issues have taught me, on the more positive side, is how to really feel for people. And let me explain that. I think that sometimes when you hear of somebody having a certain diagnosis of something, especially when it has to do with health issues, it's easy to feel bad for them, but maybe not in like a way of if you were going through something similar. I'm trying to know how to say this where it makes sense. But like whenever I got diagnosed with gastroparesis, for example, I didn't really understand how hard it was to live with that condition until I was diagnosed with it. And at the time that I was diagnosed with gastroparesis, which is where my stomach is partially paralyzed, I was at that point able to eat by mouth. And I mean, it was hard because I had to eat smaller portions and more often because I had to have an hour in between for my food to digest. But whenever I got that diagnosis, I really understood what people with that diagnosis really went through. Same with my feeding tube. So it's kind of a long story, but I got my feeding tube because of some different things I was going through. I wasn't able to keep my food down. And because of that, I lost a lot of weight and I had to get a feeding tube. I have a J tube that goes to my intestines because my stomach doesn't work right. Because on top of having gastroparesis, I also have a hernia. I do have a G-tube where I can. G-tube is the one for the stomach. I can have like certain kinds of candy and ice cream and things like that that can melt, and then I'll just vent it out of my G-tube, which is kind of like getting sick but out of a tube. Anyways, I didn't really realize what people went through that had that condition until I was diagnosed with it, and then I really felt for people that had that issue. Same with when I got the feeding tube. Like, you don't always really know what somebody's going through until that happens to you, and then you're like, okay, this is what it's like. If I hear of someone that is on a feeding tube or someone that has any type of condition that I'm diagnosed with, I really feel for them. And I think that on a positive side, it's really helped me like truly feel for people, not just be like, oh, that's sad for them, but like care in a different kind of way, if that makes sense. Like care, but like you can kind of feel what they're going through. And I think a certain type of way, those certain kind of diagnoses, I think that expressing your feelings definitely helps, because those types of diagnoses as well as many others can feel very lonely. And that's when I decided, whenever I got the certain diagnoses that I have, that I was going to share those with people, because I think the more awareness there is about certain conditions, the more people with those conditions don't feel alone. And I'm really glad that I am put in a position where I can help people and I can spread that awareness. So, on the positive side of the situation, I'm able to truly like understand what some people are going through. So I think that that's one positive part of it. There's also where when you have something like a feeding tube, a lot of times you learn how to be very independent. In a lot of ways, like in my situation, I've had my feeding tube since April, and I can pretty much do it on my own. The only thing that my mom does is before she goes to work in the morning, she does flush it once for me, and then I don't flush it till I get up the next morning. Or, yeah, I don't flush it until I get up for that day. My mom goes to work really early, so that's how it's kind of confusing. But truly feeling for people, feeling what people are going through, is one thing that I'm glad that I'm able to do. Also sharing my life with people. I think another positive thing about the things that I have gone through is showing people how you can get through it, even though it's hard. I know a lot of people personally that they'll be like, I don't know how you do it with all the diagnoses you have. And the main thing is just don't give up and let people help you. Like, be honest with people. And just let people help you in any way they can. That might be positive word, but let people know what you're going through. That definitely helps. A little bit of something that I think is a little bit funny, I guess on a more extra positive note, is that whenever I go to a doctor's office, especially like any type of hospital, I'll like say a certain thing, like, for example, like the type of tape that I get for my feeding tube, to tape it to my skin has to be a certain kind, because I have sensitive skin. There's certain tapes that won't work for my skin. So whenever I'm like at a hospital and I see that certain kind of tape, I'm like, oh, that's the tape I use. Or, oh, we have syringes like that at home. And I think that it's very interesting to, own some type of medical equipment, as your own, like the syringes or medical tape or something like that, and then go to a hospital and see the type of things that they have there for, situations like that. And it's like, oh, I know what that's for. And there's actually been times where, I'll go to see like a certain doctor and I'll be like, hey, this is what that means. And like people will be so shocked. And I think it's kind of funny. So those are some of the more positive things that I think about when I think about having health issues on the more positive side. I'm sure there's many more, but that's all I'm going to say for this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.